Alright, so in this video I'm going to go over the glass in the Jurassic Park Explorer. The glass being the window glass. Yeah, as it's seen in the movie, the glass is completely clear. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I think it looks neat. I think it's it kind of adds to the effect of the vehicle. You know, you don't see many many cars out there, especially SUVs, with completely clear glass. This is something you really don't see every day, so I think it kind of adds to the effect of it. Although I have seen Jurassic Park Explorers with tinted windows, and it actually looks kind of cool. Like the Islands of Adventure Explorer, when they blacked out all the windows, like were real dark. Yeah, I thought it actually looked kind of neat, but you know, if I were, you know, if I wasn't gonna do the interior, I'd probably, you know, do tinted windows or something. But you know, since I'm doing the interior, you know, the dashboard and the console and everything, I do want completely clear glass. You know, it's gonna add to the effect. But yeah, basically, I'm just gonna go over, you know, what to look for while you're in the junkyard, to get the closest to clear as we can get without using, you know, plexiglass or anything like that. Yeah, and actually, yeah, all of the windows in the movie truck are plexiglass, which that was just confirmed recently. Yeah, up until, you know, not too long ago, we thought, you know, okay, they just ordered, you know, they just ordered Explorer with or Explorers with clear glass. You know, maybe they swapped. You know, maybe they swapped some glass from like a base model truck or something like that. But yeah, if you remember the scene where they're looking at the Dilophosaurus paddock, like towards the beginning of the tour, they zoom in for a close up and you can see there's a bunch of scratches all over the glass. And I always thought, okay, you know, it's just some scratches, you know, in the glass. You know, I know that they do take this piece of glass out for some of the shots, because this window doesn't go all the way down. Yet in some of the shots in the beginning, you know, the window's all the way down, which is not possible. So they've actually had to remove the glass, but that's something different. Anyways, I always thought, okay, maybe they just scratched the glass when they did that. But Drew actually mentioned, he's like, hey, it's probably plexiglass, because plexiglass scratches easy and very similar how it was kind of swirls and stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Sorry, my Facebook's going off here. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So the next time the next time I went to Islands of Adventure, you know, I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. So I actually pushed on the Islands of Adventure, the Screen Use Explorer, and it bowed in, and you could tap on it, and you could tell that it was plexiglass. So same with all the glass. You know, this, you know, even the front and everything was all plexiglass. By the time I had got to checking that out, the windshield had already been replaced. It didn't have the original Screen Use windshield. That had been replaced with a factory one that has this tint strip, which that's kind of another discussion too. You can't get a windshield for an Explorer that doesn't have this tint strip. It's either blue or like a brown tint strip. I think this is going to have to be something that we live with, unless you want to do plexiglass, but then you have to deal with all the scratching, especially with the wipers running over it. Yeah, I imagine that wouldn't look too good after a while unless you are buffing it nearly every day. But yeah, so I'm just going to kind of go over what are the options are, what to look for when you're at the junkyard. So basically, how I was able to tell what is clear and what is not clear, you know, without putting windows side by side, is that every piece of glass, and this isn't just a Ford thing, but every piece of glass has these markings on it that says, it's going to either say AS1, AS2, or AS3. Try to zoom in, you can see. So I want to focus on it. Oh, you can kind of see it there. So right there, it says AS2. There it goes. Okay, so this isn't a Ford marking. This is, I don't know if it's DOT or who decides all this, but yeah, that basically identifies how much light is able to pass through this piece of glass. So it's AS2, which AS2 means that more than 70% of light that hits this makes it out the other side. So it's more than 70% of light transmission through this glass, which kind of directly relates to how much tint it has on it, because obviously the more you tint it, the less light transmission is possible. There are other numbers on here. These are probably, this is some of DOT number. Some of these are probably Ford part numbers, stuff like that. You could probably, reference that if you searched all this stuff. But I just use the AS numbers because that's a pretty universal way of checking how much light is able to pass through a piece of glass. So yeah, you'll see this one's marked AS2, and all these are marked AS2. You can't really see the markings, or the etching is a lot lighter on these. So you're probably thinking, okay, what do the other AS numbers mean? There's also AS1, which right here, every car towards the top, well, most of the time towards the top. Yeah, actually, well, all the time, yeah, at the top. There's going to be this little AS number with an arrow pointing down. That's basically saying anything. Let me try to focus on it. There we go. You can't really see it, but every car is going to have this little marking that says AS1 with an arrow pointing down. Basically meaning everything from here down has to meet the AS1 specification. Meaning basically you can do whatever you want up here. You can put the tint strip on. People do that. People put those little tint strips. Basically, they're saying it's illegal to put anything below this line, or this little arrow. Every car has that. So, yeah, AS1 means that it has more than 70% light transmission, so it's just like AS2. But AS1 means that it's laminated. That's basically only on windshields. So the only piece of AS1 glass on your car is going to be the windshield. Yeah, they laminate it so that if it breaks, it stays together. So if a piece of road debris hits your windshield, it's not going to come through the car. It's going to get stopped by that lamination. Yeah, and it's illegal to tint your windshield. That's just the thing. Like, unless you have a prescription and like a doctor's note, you can't have any tint on your windshield. But like I said, I have not seen, maybe someone, I don't know, can point me somewhere, but I've not seen an Explorer windshield, even second gen or whatever, without this tint strip on the top. It's just how it is. So that's probably gonna be something I have to live with. It's not that big a deal, I don't think. But yeah. So when you're in the junkyards, look for this AS2 marking. That's what you want for the rear pieces of glass. There were a couple different tint options on the Explorers. There was either this AS2 glass, which is completely clear. Well, I say completely clear, but it has kind of a greenish tint to it. I think it's like a solar tint, or it's just part of when they temper the glass. I don't know, or just how the glass is made. So they have this completely clear glass. They have a slightly smoked glass, which is just a slightly tinted glass, which is labeled AS3, so it does block some light transmission. And they also have a privacy tint, which I think there's a couple different colors of that. There's like a bronze privacy tint, and there's like a black privacy tint, or a silver or something like that. Basically, it's the mirror finish. Some of the glass you look at and you can see yourself in it. That's going to be the privacy tint. That's probably the least accurate, is going to be the privacy tint. The closer accuracy is going to be the slightly smoked tint, which actually I don't believe they made the smoke tint for the rear glass. I believe that's just for the cargo user to see that smoked, which I'll go over that in a second. Or this AS2 glass, which is completely clear. Everyone's Explorer should have clear front windows. I don't believe they ever made an Explorer with tinted front windows. It's just not a thing. Most vans or SUVs you see The front is completely clear, and the back will have some degree of tint. Yeah, so if you do have tint on your front glass, it's probably aftermarket, so you will just be able to peel it off. The back is kind of where the mystery is, so look at your markings, you know, or just rip it off and you can see if it's clear underneath. So I mentioned the cargo glass. This is kind of a tricky thing to get clear. Like I said, this is completely, well, not completely, but it's the closest thing you can get to completely clear. So like I said, it's a little bit of green just because of how the glass is. It's probably the solar tint. But all this glass is a little bit green, which I think is just how the glass is made. I don't know if you're familiar with like fish tanks, but like the plexiglass fish tanks are always the clearest. Like plexiglass is just really, really clear. They actually make different quality levels of aquarium glass too. Like there's like sapphire glass or diamond glass or some stuff. I forget the names of it. But the more expensive fish tanks will actually have nicer, clearer glass. It's a thing. So whether that's why they swapped out, you know, this glass for plexiglass for filming, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I mean, maybe someone that's a film major, you know, that's, you know, familiar with filming techniques. Is it that much easier to film through plexiglass? You know, I don't know, but that's what they did for the movie. But yeah, so on the first gen Explorers, I was unable to find an AS2 clear piece of cargo glass. The closest I was able to find is actually over here. Is this piece right here. This is that slightly smoked glass I was talking about. You can see, yeah, you can see there, it's stamped AS3, so that means it doesn't have the best light transmission. And you can actually see it's a little bit smoked. It's, you know, you can see this white piece of paper underneath it. It's a little bit smoked. It's not very noticeable. You know, for the most part, this is pretty acceptable. This is kind of a rare piece of glass. They only, from what I can tell, I've only seen 91s, you know, the first model year with this glass. I'm not saying that they didn't put it on other years. I mean, I'll look, I have like dealer like sales brochures that I'll look through and do a follow-up and see if it mentions, you know, the tint options. But this is kind of a rare piece of glass, and to find such an old piece of glass with this rubber intact is another thing too. Like I've seen, you know, a few of these in the junkyard, but the rubber is just rotting, you know. So I was actually able to find this one in the junkyard with really awesome rubber. It's like brand new. So that was pretty cool. This is what I was initially going to use on my truck until I found this, which is what's on there now. This is actually off of a second generation Explorer, and it's actually one of the later second gens. I believe in 98 or 99, I forget. They did a facelift on the Explorer. I think they changed the bumpers a little bit, but they also changed the tailgate. So this piece of glass here is actually from a 2001. And it's awesome. It's completely clear. It's AS2. It matches the other windows perfectly. Which, like I said, the other piece of glass I found over here, you know, that's pretty close. But when you're looking at it side by side, you know, when you're looking at all three panels next to each other, it's noticeable. You know, it's kind of a thing. You know, I'm really, you know, picky, so it kind of bothered me. But I didn't want to do plexiglass, just dealing with the scratching and all that, you know. So I was able to find this piece of glass off of a second gen, which fits in here perfectly. The only, you know, catch here is that this rubber trim, the design changed a little bit. I don't know if you're too familiar with the facelifted second gens, but the first gen, the glass is meant to kind of look like it wraps all the way around. So the D pillar which is, this is a D pillar, because it's kind of a side note here, but starting from the front, you got A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, D pillar. The D pillar on the first gen is painted black, and it's to kind of match the windows, especially if you tint them, that it kind of gives the illusion of that it's one piece. On the second gens, they actually put a little trim piece here and stopped the window right here, basically. And this D pillar was the body color, and they didn't have these little trim pieces. It was smooth and kind of a different design. So you can see that this rubber accommodates the second gen look. It's a little bit different size, and it bends here smoothly. There's not an abrupt bend, and this is real thick here. So it's a slight difference. I mean, unless you were to mention it, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But it kind of bothers me a little bit. So what I'm gonna do, what I've started to do, is I'm going to remove this. This is the second gen, or the first gen rubber. You can see the top piece there is a second gen piece of glass, the facelifted second gen. So this is out of this one's out of a 2000, and this is a 91. So you can see this part here is thin, this part here is very thick, and it's just slightly different. So yeah, this right here, this is an AS2 piece of glass. It has some aftermarket tint, which is this purple tint I have to peel off, but it'll be completely clear underneath. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this rubber trim, remove both rubber trims, and transplant this trim onto the second gen glass. So I'll have the completely clear glass with the accurate rubber trim. Which actually, this is a piece of trim off of a first gen piece of glass that is already removed. I was lucky enough to find a piece of glass in the junkyard that had a perfect rubber trim on it. Kind of a hard thing to find. I think I got this off of like a 97, so it was kind of a newer one. It was a second gen, but it was before the facelift, so it still had the old style rubber on it. So I bought the piece of glass, and I was able to cut the rubber off, and now I have it separated. And I'm basically going to transplant it onto this. So I got an extra set of the second gen clear glass. I didn't want to, experiment on these. If something went wrong or it didn't end up working out, I wanted something to fall back on. And this actually, the rubber on this is actually really nice. So I didn't want to go, hacking at that, if it didn't end up working out. So I was able to find another set very recently. And that's it right here. So I've already started removing the rubber off of the clear glass. Which, like I said, this is clear underneath. This is just some aftermarket tint that's gone bad in purple. But this is the rubber I'm removing. So you're probably thinking, okay, so you're cutting off this rubber seal, so you're gonna have all these problems, it's gonna leak, it's gonna, well, that's not true, because actually, if you look at where it seals, it actually seals farther in. So this is the rubber, like, kind of decorative piece, and then right here, this little trough is actually where it seals. So basically I could cut off all the rubber like that, bolt this to the truck, and it would still seal. It's just it wouldn't look very nice. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that. I'm going to attach it to the truck without this rubber on it. And then I'm going to take that first generation style of rubber trim and attach it. I'm going to use maybe epoxy on the glass part, and then I'm going to glue, or not glue, but use like a little bit of silicone or something that's removable to actually touch the truck. I don't want to epoxy anything to the truck that's permanent, but I'll probably use like a silicone or like some kind of adhesive that's removable. But yeah, that's my plan, and I think that's yeah, it's gonna be the best of both worlds. It's gonna be the completely clear glass, but it's not gonna be plexiglass. Just dealing with the maintenance of that. Not to mention just making the piece and painting it, painting this thing. Yeah, I don't know. This is a really good alternative to plexiglass. So that's, I've covered the windshield. I've covered these pieces of glass. Like I said, these are pretty easy to find. This, every Explorer is going to have clear. This one's a little tricky. Like I said, most people would be okay with this slightly smoked one. Sorry, my camera just stopped. It said I reached my time. But yeah, most people would be okay with this. Yeah, I just wanted to change it out just so it looks all uniform and a little closer to what you see in the movie. So the last piece is this in the back. This is the the hatch glass. So I was not able, you're not able to use the hatch glass from a second gen. So basically the same truck that I got this clear glass out of, the hatch style changed in that year. It's like more bubbly, like they changed the entire hatch, whereas like the sides of the truck pretty much remained the same throughout the different model years, but the back, they made the back more bubbly and it's a completely different tailgate. So this piece is actually a see if I can get anything in. This is actually an AS3 piece of glass, so this is slightly smoked. This is the closest I was able to find. Actually, this one does not have a defroster on it, which is kind of hard to find. Again, you have to look at like a 91, maybe 92, like base model Explorer, like an XL. And this is the closest you're gonna get for the back, from what I can tell. It's not that big a deal because you can't really tell because it's not really super close to any other piece of glass. You got this pillar here, and from any shots in the back, you won't really be able to notice. Just this piece just kind of bothered me because it's right next to the other pieces, so it was noticeable. But yeah, look out the Junkyard for base model, really early Explorers like 91s, to look for this piece of glass without the defrost. And like I said, this is off of a second gen, second gen kind of baser model. I don't know. I think it was an XLS, which is the new base model. I think I got this piece out of both of these pieces. But yeah, that's my plan. Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure why they did plexiglass. If someone, who does film stuff knows, okay, it's less glare or something, I don't know, it'd be kind of interesting to know why they did that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just putting some final coats of wax on my console plug here. Gonna start molding that as soon as the material comes in. But yeah, yeah, this glass, this will be like a side project. I mean, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks now. The little difference in the rubber doesn't really bother me too much, so it's gonna be something I'm gonna work on the side, and then when I have some extra time, I'm gonna actually swap it. But I hope that was informative and kind of giving you an idea of what to look for at the Junkyard. And thanks for watching.